believe in the mainstream narrative, spouting so much bullshit that you think they're popping laxatives and GMO additives. They're casting spells using the scariest adjectives. Fuck this backward shit, they got your ass twisted. I gave you the key to fix it, press rewind if you missed it.
So let's turn the page in this Aquarius age. They be running a maze until you unlock your cage. Best believe it that you're one of a kind. All wicked motherfuckers to the stars align. They wish you monoliths, hobbylists, fake space to communists. Pointing out the obvious, inoculate the populace. True, but we see right through. Burn back better till we see some better weather. Now we're 2033, living in pure misery. Never get the best of me, trying to erase my memory. Banks, fake wars, blow up tanks. In this regimen, watch us move up ranks. Grab your Lego bag, I will grab the double mag. Meet you at the pyramid, we can watch the Phoenix soar. Project Blue Beams, a sick cartoon. We will never rest till we nuke the moon.
Alright, we are live here, Infinite Plane Radio, open phones for open minds. Phone numbers on the screen, 349-0420, 505-349-0420. That was Sands of Time by Portal Complex featuring JT33 and DJ Freestone. I put a link below. This is a quote from JFK. The enemy of truth is very often not the lie, deliberate, contrived, and dishonest, but the myth. Persistent, persuasive, and unrealistic. Too often we hold fast to the cliches of our forebears. We subject all facts to a prefabricated set of interpretations. We enjoy the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought. This part about the prefabricated set of interpretations allowing you the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought is the part I wanted to hone in on here. Because we're looking at wars of opinions, at atrocity propaganda pissing contests, and none of it is convincing. It's just histrionic versus histrionic, overreaction versus overreaction. Emotionally dysregulated people popping off at each other, running around with fake dead kids, sharing videos from video games or old events, indiscriminately spamming all the different news feeds with their quote evidence, and it's just become a massive S-fest. But the good news is nobody's dying, well, a lot of people are crying, but it's generally, again, crocodile tears, which elicit real tears. I mean, that's one of the paradoxes of this thing, how they can use these fake events and affect reality. For example, fake shooting, fake blood, fake tears. Next day, you have the Red Cross sucking blood out of people while there's a candlelight vigil sucking tears out of people. It's like, wow, you got real tears and a real blood sacrifice with a simulated event. All right, let's go through comments here while people show up. Diana South from D-Live, Frank Murr, 737, Ollie Goering, Portal Complex, Jacques, Skill, all of you from YouTube, thanks for joining. Again, we are live open phones if you want to call in. I want to dive right into the subject of the hockey player who was supposedly killed. We've been talking about this off and on for a little bit of time since it started, and my initial take on it was it's fake until proven real because the media is a pathological liar. It has lied to us this whole time. Why should I immediately say, "Oh, this hockey player getting killed is more real than Damar Hamlin's heart attack and resurrection little ceremony?" And I'm saying, no, these are one and the same. I don't have any evidence that it's fake, but the day after and look, you didn't have evidence it was real. Anybody saying it was real didn't have any evidence. They had say from the screen, but you weren't there. You weren't there. You weren't close up. We don't know. We only know what the media asserts to be true, and you can judge it real or fake, based on what you consider to be acceptable standards of evidence. But in this case, the fact that the next day everyone was wearing 47s on their helmets made me think this has got to be connected to the bigger psychological warfare narrative having to do with Trump and the 47, the head wound thing that's been foreshadowed. And we've been looking at this since 7/4 of 2022, when a guy with a tattoo of 47 on his head and a 47 on his car, a guy obsessed with Lee Harvey Oswald, went to Trump rallies quite often. You can kind of figure out what he was thinking when he shot up a 4th of July parade. And I saw that, and Trump started wearing a hat that has, in addition to the 45 on it, a 47. Again, 4-5 is 9, 4-7 is 11. So we're like, oh, the next 9/11 is going to be this much anticipated and heavily foreshadowed head wound. Again, we're just talking about predictive programming as a predictive model. Like, had we understood how media worked 20 some years ago, we could have said, hey, look, guys, there's a lot of movies where the Twin Towers are getting pummeled. They're gonna do something to those towers, and we wouldn't have been surprised. So don't be surprised when Seattle gets the nuke or when Trump gets the fake head wound. Now, to continue here, though, I thought this thing was likely fake just because everyone had the 47s on their helmets, and it's just too symbolic. Well, here's some new information. This was Geometria Effect News, shared to me by Mark Foley. Appreciate this. Man arrested over the death of number 47 on November the 14th, 2023. November the 14th, 2023 leaves 47 days left in the year. Again, player 47, the guy being charged with manslaughter, gets arrested on the day that we have 47 days left in the year. Now here's what's more. Adam Johnson was on the ice for 46 minutes and 52 seconds in his rookie season, very close to 47. Maybe if you add the 8 seconds or so, maybe that's the time that he had to walk off the stage with the fake blood, but very close to 47. And that's not all. We've been looking deeply into this, and this is what Violet found, and this is a big one if you ask me. This seals it for me that it's fake. The Nottingham Panthers on Saturday conducted their own memorial at Motorpoint Arena. He said the Panther fans had taken to Adam, our best player, and will wear his 47 on their hearts forever. Then, on Sunday, so all their players are going to have 47 on their jerseys. This is very reminiscent of a number of other psyops we could point to. Then on Sunday, Nottingham Forest football player, Panthers fanatic, Oral Johnson Mangala scored in the 47th minute of a Premier League victory over Aston Villa, while fans were paying tribute to Adam with the 1-minute ovation. Hours later, the goalie made a career best 47 saves. Again, scoring at 47 minutes, 1-minute ovation, goalie 47 saves in a 3-3 tie with the University of Minnesota. So 3-3. Again, the Damar Hamlin thing was all about the 3-3s. I think he had made $3.3 million by 3:30 a.m. It was ridiculous. But it's all tied to this obvious script. Let me go through some comments. Diana South says, do these people have a Cricut to make up helmet stickers while the squib is still wet? Right, it's awfully quick, right? And I know there's some t-shirt companies out there that I think employ psychics, because there's a mass shooting and the next day there's t-shirts with all the victims' names. And I'm like, Well, these t-shirt companies must have these already pre-printed. They get the names before the bodies are even piled up at the morgue. Just another indication you're looking at props. Again, what's with all the 47s? I don't know exactly. That's why we're talking about it, although we have a lot of ideas. Okay, another subject we've been speaking about a lot lately has to do with James Cameron. Here's a picture of James Cameron finding out about September the 11th while he's down in the abyss, looking at the remains of the Titanic, filming Ghosts in the Abyss. And this is where we start to build the connection between Revelation 9/11 and the destroyer in the abyss and the Twin Towers. And the Twin Towers sinking, correlating with the Titanic sinking, the destroyer being the iceberg. This is all just theater. But James Cameron also had predictive programming built into the Titanic movie. Splits in two like Twin Towers, twins, big chunks sink down, jumpers and everything. He had predictive programming for the nuke and 9/11 in T2. So this is all getting really interesting because we've been talking about how this Tower of Babel, America, Babylon, the Tower of Babel's, I think the idea of the West, too big to fail, all mankind joined in one mission from Earth to the heavens, the ultimate expression of man's hubris to be taken down by, God, or whatever it is that knocks this thing down. That's just the story. So the Titanic, the West, is part of this body of symbols. And they brought it back with the movie Don't Look Up with Leonardo DiCaprio, face of the Titanic, as the guy warning us that the Earth's going to be hit by a comet, which is just a space iceberg, if the capitalists are allowed to lead us into destruction because they want to mine it for money, for financial gain, instead of deflecting it. Again, symbolic of the West and greed and rich people in control, and we need to stop this. So this is an ongoing story. But for some time, I've been making this connection between the Titanic and the Twin Towers, and it's a very important connection. And what's more, I would connect the Twin Towers to the ISS, that this is one contiguous structure, and it all means the same thing. Now, to continue here, James Cameron here on the screen at the wreckage of the Titanic, and then this is another interesting piece to the puzzle. The Titanic Memorial was first built in 1913, and it was moved to Lower Manhattan in July 1968. 1 month later, construction began on the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. It's like the pieces moving on a board or something. Like there's a broader narrative here. I use the word metascript because it's a story told across multiple generations, but again, this is just another indicator that we're on the right track. We're reading the symbols, we're reading their story, and it's pretty consistent. It's very consistent that James Cameron, with his $33 million mansion, took these trips down to the Titanic 33 times. And it even makes sense, too, that he's re-releasing The Abyss right now, which has this spacewalk-like scene. And there's a correlation between outer space and the deep, deep ocean. But the 33 is interesting considering just after 9/11, some 33-year-old fell down the 9/11 reflecting pool. The abyss, a 33-year-old falling in the abyss. There's some kind of occult cryptic story being conveyed here. And of course, James Cameron, JC, Jesus Christ, John Connor, the Savior. We've gone through this stuff a million times, but again, the fact that the Titanic's memorial was moved over there in 1968, 33 years before the towers go down, the year that 9/11 became an emergency number in America. They started the NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming, the conditioning, where whenever you think emergency, it's 9/11, 9/11. And what a setup. Gematria 101 says Building 7 had 47 floors. Ooh, interesting. 47. Now, 47 has some connotations within the context of the raising of the Masonic initiate to the third degree when they're symbolically killed and resurrected. There's some comments in that lecture about the 47th problem of Euclid, and I believe the Masonic compass is 47 degrees, which is probably representative of the sun and its journey north-south, 23.5 north, 23.5 south throughout the year. But there's quite a lot we could take apart from this 47, a lot of predictive programming, and I think it all points to this headshot thing. And I've thought so since I think his name was Richard Cremo, the guy who shot up the Highland Park. Again, not Parkland High, Highland Park, 4th of July parade. John Francis says, behind her eyes, UK popular Netflix thriller series, the protagonist lives at flat 47. I want to point out, too, that Super Bowl 47 in 2013 was a so-called, quote, blackout bowl, where it went dark for 33 minutes. Who knows what they did? I suspect Jay-Z, Beyonce, and Obama, and a few others probably had a pizza party beneath the bleachers. But 33 minutes, it went dark. So Super Bowl 47, 33 minutes of darkness, possibly, in my view, foreshadowing right now. This presidential election, 2024, is Super Bowl 47. That's why I think it really stands out that we've got this guy with the 47. And there's more. If we want to go into the symbolism here, you have a black player killing a white player. Well, black and white is the main thing within the Masonic ritualistic set of symbols, the black and white tiles, of course. So there's that. Portal Complex says 47 is well represented as the atomic number of silver, aka, okay. Well, I'm still looking into it. We're still just trying to determine, but one thing is for sure. If this was just an accident, it wouldn't be replete with all kinds of symbols. It wouldn't be, oh, the guy gets arrested with 47 days left in the year, 47 minutes on the ice, 47 minute score, 47 saves. It wouldn't be like that. They all had the 47s on their heads. Too scripted. So the world ahead is the title of tonight's live stream. WHIRLED. The world stage, which is spinning to keep mankind discombobulated. That's more than anything. Look, the curve of the earth, the ball versus the flat, who cares? The real question here is worldview. And the worldview of the people who think they're on a CGI ball is discombobulated. They are meaningless, domesticated apes on a dying planet in a collapsing universe. There's no point to anything. You might as well just lay down and quit. That's what they're actually taught to believe. The world stage is designed to disconnect you from any kind of bigger picture, much less a divine origin. And they're trained out of pattern recognition because everything is chaos and random. Nothing means anything. So it's like, what do you mean this means something? Nothing means anything. Haven't you been paying attention to your programming? It's like, no. No, these things actually mean something. We've shifted the burden of proof, and moreover, we've demonstrated this time and again, that it's so consistent that the only logical explanation is we live in a news-bent reality, run by perverts who bend the horizon as well to shrink our concept of how big everything is, to put mankind's imagination on a 12.5 thousand mile leash. I mean, what's the point? You can only go halfway around the world, then you're coming back. There's really no reason to think about what might be, 30,000 miles away, because everything else is just emptiness. I mean, there's a field of space junk, Van Allen radiation belt, but there's no turf, no habitable land for light years. It's very isolating. Okay, let's go ahead and look at this. The World Ahead 2024, the Economist cover. The reason why we're looking at Economist covers is that these are used to, I think, convey the metascript to the insiders. And if you're listening to Infinite Plane Radio, you get free Mind War inoculation, and you become an insider. An insider to the information that we're not supposed to have, the stuff that professional conspiracy theorists that pretend to be opposition to the mainstream desperately try to hide. We're not supposed to have any inside information about how media really works. We're supposed to take it all literally. We're supposed to be MSM fundamentalists. If it's on the screen, it's real. So this is a cover we talk about quite often. The Economist from the winter of 2017, Sharp Power, the New Shape of Chinese Influence. You can read that as Novel Chinese Influenza. And the globe with the spikes is obviously COVID, and right there it's just red where China is, but now the whole thing is red. 2020, foreshadowed here. Next, the weaker sex. No job, no family, no prospects. This cover is very interesting to me because, for a few reasons, but one, this is from 2013. This is pre-MAGA. This is like 2013. Pre-MAGA. But what do you have here? A man in a red MAGA hat, apparently, inside of a queue. But it's not a Q. It's actually the male symbol, but it's pointed down and it's cracked and it's broken. And this all ties into Barbie feminism and the neutered Kens, which are the model for the future. Women need to model themselves off the Whore of Babylon, and men need to model themselves off of the Ken doll. But if you note here, this is pre-MAGA. He's got a red hat. And this is, again, part of the attack on, quote, toxic masculinity. Definitely a Q. Again, predictive programming for the Q and for the MAGA movement. So here we are looking at the world ahead, and this is the latest one. Again, we're looking at the cover of The Economist that just came out. Has anyone been able to extract anything from this piece yet? I think Linda Curtis, aka Wonder Woman, suggested it might be a QR code. And it does kind of have that look, if anyone can test it out. All right, moving on here. Joined by Osher. Let's go. Thanks for joining. Phones are open if you want to call in if you have any ideas about what the world ahead may look like. Let's listen to Eddie Griffin for a minute here. Here's Eddie Griffin talking about why we can't leave the Earth in his opinion.
He has talked about the Earth being flat for a long time. Let's get into it.
Wants to go to outer space. It's like every other billionaire. I need to go to outer space. What's out in outer space?
Why y'all trying to go out there?
And they never make it. The rocket ship hits the firmament, and the firmament stops it.
Now, there's a lot of talk about this. I want to point out that it's ridiculous to think that you can see something hit the firmament. Let's say there is some barrier and things are hitting it. You're not going to see it from the ground. You're not going to record it and post it on YouTube. What you're seeing with these rockets going up is a very, I think, spectacular presentation. It's a fireworks show. It's a distraction. But there's no reason to think they're bouncing off something. It's a very common thing, but I think it largely stems from this video where this rocket is going up and then it pops out the parachute and people think that's where it hits a dome. Misconceptions. And these misconceptions are all over the place, and I think it kind of distracts from the point that can be made about questioning the shape, or at least questioning the ones who provide information about the shape. Because I would say that you have quite a lot to grasp onto tangibly if you want to deconstruct the space program by demonstrating how it's movie magic and not physics that's getting us into, quote, space. So I try to stay away from the flat earth memes based on misconceptions. I mean, but again, in a way, it doesn't really matter at this point. Reality is fluid, flat or not. I got blocked by George Online LLC. Not an easy thing to do, but I've been goading them for a while. I get my block list. Look, I could print out every one of these so-and-so blocked you and get wallpaper. I still wish they would have a block list, like, on Twitter you have how many subs. How many people block you? It says something. And by the way, you can't block me. You can't block anybody. In fact, there are websites where you can read tweets. All right, let's go on. I have a stack of notes here going back from the other day I wanted to catch up on. So James Cameron, we'll talk about James Cameron. He's re-releasing The Abyss. And here's what he said. The primary edition is the ending. When Bud is taken to the alien ship. Now this is interesting too, because we're like, between Alien and The Abyss, there's just this reoccurring theme here that outer space and the ocean are somewhat related in terms of their symbolic meaning. So the primary edition is the ending here. When Bud is taken to the alien ship, the aliens show him images of war and aggression from news sources around the globe. How hilarious. The aliens believe the news. The aliens then create massive mega tsunamis that threaten the world's coasts, but they stop them right before they hit. So the message here from the aliens is cut the S, or we're going to hit you all with mega tsunamis. But if you connect the dots here, James Cameron, Terminator 2, the nuking of the West Coast, Then we have the Titanic, which correlates to the sinking of the West, and all of this tying into the destroyer, which is the nuke referenced by Oppenheimer. It is the Terminator. And what you have here is this theme that the aliens have to intervene and stop man from destroying himself, which is one of the reoccurring themes with aliens since really the beginning. Like the day the earth stood still or something, this theme has always been that we need some kind of divine intervention, but since we don't believe in, this new atheistic world order, it's aliens now, not angels. But when we started nuking each other, we really crossed the line. Aliens will teach us a lesson. But this is fascinating because James Cameron had even said recently that if Skynet were real and it was going to destroy us, it would use deep fakes to put man against man and destroy us without destroying the environment. I'm pretty sure he's part of the plan to do just that. Skynet is essentially real from that perspective. Only it's not, quote, AI using deep fakes to set man against man, but it's the cult that runs this place and has a monolithic control over all media. Exalt says, do I have to subscribe on Patreon again to get on Discord, or am I permabanned? If you are cured of the anti-vax mind virus, we'll let you back in. No, we have zero tolerance for foot bullets. Our last Discord server was taken down for, quote, medical misinformation. I had a caller the other night. It was a great call, but he had this comment about how, I think it was something about Israel allowing deaths to happen to cover up the number of people dying from the, you know what, just saying it as though it's assumed to be true. And I didn't correct it. I didn't care. It's not my opinion. I was just interested in his worldview. And YouTube actually pulled that video over his comments. And that could not have been automated. Someone had to think about it. Like his comment was a little too nuanced for them to just say medical misinformation. It was almost like speculation. But anyway, my point of it is somebody's listening. And on the Discord servers, they are definitely watching. And whenever you build up a lot of content, they want to take you down. When you build a network, they want to take you down. They don't want this parallel media to exist. They don't want there to be a body of informed media deconstructionists who aren't brainwashed, collaborating, talking, comparing notes, and putting together the big puzzle. They don't want this to happen. So we build up these really big networks, and then they take it down because somebody walks in there with some controlled opposition counter-narrative talking point that nobody needs to hear. So again, yes, you can come back in the Discord server, but I just want to make sure you're cured of that particular mind virus infection. Okay, let's continue. We already talked about Netanyahu's neck. Not all that interesting. Neck and Yahoo. Some people are saying it was a rubber mask. Others are saying it's digital. Some are saying it's true for a bait, which is what I think. Okay, we talked about the crying statue. And there are people who think this is real. People like Jack Posobiec, who's very interesting for a lot of reasons. We're talking about human events. Jack Posobiec, the guy who pretty much started Pizzagate. It seems like he's the guy on the alt-right whose task it is to create and foment a new satanic panic. He's the guy who went out with a bunch of Catholic priests and did an exorcism for the Dodger Stadium when they had that group of Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence drag queen nuns performing. Now, he's the one who also talks about Audrey Hale, or Aiden Hale, convinced that the shooter at the Covenant School was some kind of, satanic evil person. And, this is at the time they were pointing out the Target with the rainbow clothes for the kids, designed by a guy who did Baphomet clothing. Anyway, that's his thing. And to see him here with the sharing this crying Virgin Mary statue just shows you that, yeah, these people are playing to their base. They're all panderers. You see, the right wing believes in sin. The left wing believes in virus. And that's one of the major cultural divides because the virus is the new iteration of this archaic construct used to control people. You're dirty. You need us to save you. But there's a small number of us, and It's a very stratified system here, and a lot of you are just not salvageable. But if you pray, and anyway, the whole point of it is to create a two-tiered society. Saved and the unsaved, they want this split. And this is why they didn't look. 2020 was never about getting everybody purified. They wanted to split everything in half and get everything out in the open. After 9/11, you lost your privacy in a lot of ways. At the airport, now they have the naked body scanners that people were protesting about. Now they can grope you. So now they can go through your clothes. 19 years later, we have the whole COVID thing. Well, now they can go through your skin. The next stage, and this is where they're at now, is where they get into your mind. And I think Neuralink may tie into this. And I'm starting to think there's something to it. More and more, I'm getting ads for things that I'm thinking about. Not even things that I want. Portal Complex says BB Neck is a Halloween costume in 2024. A little late. Oh, maybe people will remember. There's other people with, like the guy from the CEO of Fiverr. You'd need some kind of device, like somehow to make it inflate and deflate. But he had that iguana reptilian neck thing going on. Anyway, this thing with the crying statue is obviously fake, but one of the reasons I'm pointing this out is that fake miracles work on a large segment of the population. And if the power elite, controllers of this monolithic mind control apparatus that dominates every mind in the world except for us, if they can get 98% or 90% to believe in some bullshit alien invasion, we have to go with it. They don't care what the thinkers think. It's all about what the believers believe. So again, the fact that people fall for this is sad. There's probably a leaky toilet upstairs and it's just dripping down. Idol worship. That's what this actually is. Okay, moving on. This is back when they worshiped statues. Now they worship living idols, which is what celebrity worship is. And that's kind of another topic I want to get into here. MAGA idol worship. The Church of JFK and resurrected dead celebrities. If I didn't have this going on, I would consider starting a Church of JFK because it would be huge. If I was just in it for the money, I would be running a Church of JFK, sending out religious tracts, preaching, sermons. I'd be getting donations. I'd be rolling. I'd get a big Ford Lincoln. I'd have people drive me around. I'd be in the back seat. I mean, I'd have like a gold AK-47 around my neck. Like we would totally rock the Church of JFK, maybe crossed AK-47s as a crucifix. Oswald would be like our devil. We could totally just, with the art I'm talking about, the art direction, I could totally envision this thing. And it would work because there are people who want this. This is a huge new religious movement, and it's spawned from the internet meme pools left behind in the wake of Trump's 2020 loss. So here's a few tenets of the Church of JFK, and it's big. I would actually say that this is probably bigger than Scientology. If you look at the number of hardcore MAGAs and then the percentage of them who actually believe this JFK stuff. So one, JFK is the second coming of Jesus. Two, he had the technology to see the future and he planned accordingly. They call it Project Looking Glass. So he had, kind of like what we do with Netflix, he had some kind of a black screen he could look through and he saw the future. So he planned accordingly and they had a dummy there. This is their lore. This is their mythology. So JFK's comeback is happening through Donald Trump. It's 60 years in the making. The Q drops, and I think if you look at the total number of Q drops, I think it actually outnumbers it's bigger than the Bible. But it constitutes a New Testament. And it's prophesizing Christ's return. And I'm spelling Christ here with a Q. Certain dead celebrities in this faith are actually saints in a holy war, fighting under new names and under disguise. This would include Michael Jackson, John Denver, Madonna, apparently, not dead, but she's one of them. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was a descendant of Jesus, according to this religion. Tupac, and Rush Limbaugh. But Rush Limbaugh, who died as Jim Morrison, came back as Rush, died as Rush after 33 years with the EIB, is going to come back as Jim Morrison. So I'm assuming right now he's out there getting trim. Limbaugh coming back as Jim Morrison. Now, what they have is is what psychologists call erotomania. They have a collective form of erotomania, which has them convinced that these celebrities, including Donald Trump, are communicating with them. Erotomania is when you think someone is in love with you, but they're not. It may be a person you've never met. Famous actors, politicians, any of these types of people, that you think you're in a relationship with them, and you may not be able to accept facts that prove otherwise. Now, it's not always like a love relationship. Like someone listens for secret messages directed at them from their favorite musician's lyrics. A person spends their free time finding out everything they can about a famous actor or singer or political figure that they believe loves them. Delusions of love, signs of living with erotomania. Now, this is a form of a delusional disorder. I guess it's only a disorder if it messes up your life. I've talked to one person who had this was in school, had this thought that some famous musician was singing to her, and I'm like, that's just because they write the music in a very targeted way. And what Trump has done is he's capitalized on this, where he'll make a cue in the air during one of his rallies. That's a secret message to all the Q people, and it gives them a huge boost. It's massively validating. Everything they're doing suddenly makes sense, and he's communicating to them because they're special. And the people in the mainstream media just can't see it because they're not special. They're enemies. So this is, again, part of this bond that's being created. They are believing that they're getting these signals. They call them comms. And if you look at and think about the word emoji. Emojis are just that, expressions of emotion. And 99% of the garbage that the MAGA idol worshippers tweet is just like emoji salads. Like not word salads, emoji salad. Just spam emojis like thumbs up, American flag, smiley face, heart, heart. It's like, give me a break. What are you actually saying here? And just like, and they're like, I'm just here. I need the vibes. Raise my vibes. I'm like, yeah, JFK's coming back. Heart, heart, America, U.S., flag, flag, fireworks, party emoji, smiley face. And it's addicting for them. It is addicting. And it's probably the only human contact they have because they've burned so many bridges with this cult by design. These cults, and this is a cult, and this is what, look, the mainstream does it. The mainstream religious cult, the MSM, would have you segregate from anybody who doesn't believe in its tenets, who don't take salvation according to what it prescribes. You don't take their injectable communion wafer, as it were. And small cults do the same thing. If they're dangerous cults, if they're harmful cults, they tend to outgroup and create a wall between the insiders and the outsiders. And so the weirder the MAGA gets, and when I say MAGA, I'm talking about the JFK wing, and it's big. The weirder it gets, the more entrenched they get, the more defensive they get. Leonard Yuda says, my friend totally lost her mind believing that crap. It's sad to watch. She had her kid taken by CPS. And see, that probably was like, to her, it's the deep state going after her. Probably went in deeper. And I think a lot of this I would say 100% of this isn't just random grifters. This is a well-financed operation. And if you look at the origin of this religious group, it has its threads you can follow to where it comes from, because it's a Frankenstein of a religion. It's part neo-Christianity, it's part New Ageism, and then you have this weird fixation with Tesla and Musk, kind of weirdly. But then they're like Nikola Tesla. But they also have elements of Seventh-day Adventism, which has to do with the prophesizing the return of Christ and getting it wrong all the time, but sticking around. And then it has a huge dose of the Church Universal Triumphant, where they worship the ascended masters, as in dead celebrities who are faking their death so they can fight the deep state. These are all elements to the cult. General Flynn, who's a huge part in this movement, had the Magas praying to the seven rays of the archangels, prayers out of the cult of the Church Universal Triumphant thing. Not even out of the Bible, just straight up out of a cult, a doomsday cult that had its members move into bunkers at the end of the 80s because they thought Russia and China were going to nuke them all. And they didn't, if you notice. And you know why we didn't get nuked in 1989, 1990? Anybody? It's not because nukes are fake. It's because the Church Universal Triumphant, under the guidance of Elizabeth Clare Prophet, that's actually her name is Prophet, because they prayed so hard. They prayed so hard into the night, they channeled the violet fire and the archangels in Saint Germain, and they deflected those nukes. So you can thank your local Church Universal Triumphant cultist. Really interesting stuff. If you haven't heard about the sevenfold rays and General Flynn, and you could pretty much call this. I mean, I don't know if you would call it satanic. That's not really the word. They do worship the archangel Michael and this immortal by the name of the Count Saint Germain, who they believe is. Here it is. This is the clip.
Rays and all your archangels.
This is General Flynn and the seven rays of light.
We are your instrument of those sevenfold rays and all your archangels, all of them. We will not retreat. We will not retreat. We will stand our ground.
Now, it's a long oath, but you can find the high priestess Elizabeth Clare Prophet praying the same prayer. I'm just pointing out that if you go back, this is how it's all connected. It's this cult that's designed to be a doomsday cult. It's also connected with the idea of a prophecy of the second coming or something like that, and they've attached it to JFK, which is part of an older conspiracy that's been around for a while called I think it's called the Hidden Kings, and it's about how the Kennedys have been undercover for 60 years, and they're secretly ruling from behind the scenes. These are recycled stories that have been stitched together and repackaged by people working for Trump for the purpose of turning conspiracy theorists into a right-wing voter bloc. And you'll notice conspiracy theories used to be about reptilians and aliens and underground bases, weird science and stuff. And now it's become culture war stuff. It's become stuff that has to do with secret labs in Wuhan, and it gets you involved in the whole political thing and Q and Trump. Yeah, it wasn't like that before. They've politicized conspiracy theories, or what they define as conspiracy theories, which are just the counter narratives to the mainstream, because the mainstream is nothing but conspiracy theories. If you really want to be honest about it, their news is their conspiracy theories, and vice versa. Shout out to Exalt, who has rejoined the IPS Patreon. I will remove you from the banned list, and I'm not trying to thought cop you. If you want to drop some anti-vax memes, some vintage counter-narrative agitprop, feel free. Lean Dion says Crow 7777777 has a regular guest on called Fortune de Saint Germain, who claims he's a relative of the original alchemist. You know who also went by the name Saint Germain? Hori Sheet. You remember that guy? Who really devolved. If you don't know, he was one of the speakers at one of these flat earth conferences or something, but last I saw, he was becoming his own digital avatar and making videos teaching children how to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I mean, the creepiest thing in the world. Creepy. Creepy. Let's just move on from that. I feel dirty talking about some of these characters from the not so distant past, but the flat earth movement, like every conspiracy movement, is just saturated with feds and peds because they have to gatekeep everybody's minds. All right, let's see here. Diana South says Helena Blavatsky wrote about the seven rays. Yeah, it's the new age. Blavatsky is where we get the phrase, I think, and Alice Bailey. These are where they really popularized theosophy and the whole concept of a new age and this global transformation. And if you read the writings of the theosophists, it talks about these like collective consciousness, everybody being interconnected. It's almost like they're talking about the future technologies that would be introduced more than an actual change in us, in our consciousness. Oshra06 says, so small you can barely see. Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot about that. We made him a character on South Pole. That was kind of the irony of it. Yeah, you're right. His character was so small you needed a microscope. He was like, I think the story of it, if you remember South Pole Season 1, he was injected into Carly B in a vaccine. Anyway, the story is basically he slayed the AIDS dragon. We'll have to release South Pole at some point. Total absurdist animation. If you don't know what we're talking about, it was in its second season. We were producing these cartoons almost weekly before uh, the Tricoms that owned DLive decided to block us. All because of what we said about January 6th. And speaking of which, Jacob Chansley, the QAnon shaman, who was how many years old when he went into the Capitol? The same age as the guy that Tucker just had on, who's getting arrested for a meme about Hillary Clinton. That's correct, 33. Jacob Chansley's 33 at the time, known as the QAnon shaman from January 6th, filed papers to run for Congress in Arizona's 8th Congressional District. What a disingenuous crisis actor. Amazing, amazing what we're seeing here. He's a major league new ager who believes, of course, that if we can all just vibe, raise our vibes, we'll get the free energy. His whole thing is free energy from Nikola Tesla. So there we have it. He's going to run for Congress. And I've listened to him speak, and honestly, I feel like he's binging on David Icke and just regurgitating it on camera. He's talking about vibes and more vibes and love. I mean, it's the QAnon hippie shaman thing is just so stale. Okay, let's move on here. Now, as far as this JFK cult thing, because I want to kind of wrap this part up, there's got to be an agenda behind it. And what is the agenda? The purpose of it is, like with this Q shaman, making MAGA folk look batshit insane. It's like a self-inflicted smear campaign. And the propagators of this cult are well integrated, like they're networked. And if you ask me, their Twitter accounts are just too big, like too big. Considering the nature of their claims, just how obviously full of crap they are, why do they get so popular? Why does someone who pretends to be a dead president who happened to be Jesus, which makes zero sense, why would such a person gain 1,000 subs a day if they weren't paying for it? And who's paying for it? And why are they so anonymous? And I'm calling this all out because it all stems from the resurrected George magazine. That started this whole thing. But I've been wondering here, if their whole story is about bloodlines and the bad guys and the good guys and the Kennedys are Christ, why don't they crucify RFK Jr.? He's got the Kennedy Christ blood, does he not? Why isn't he on Team MAGA? That doesn't make sense either. He's the reason why people think JFK Jr. is alive, because he touched his nose. I don't know who's voting for RFK Jr. He's anti-vax, but he's totally fine walking around barefoot in an airplane with like gross food on the floor. Did you see that? I saw one of his tweets today. It was like, no shirt, no shoes, no Secret Service. Sort of funny. But again, walking around barefoot on an airplane, and yet he's afraid of vaccines. I'm sorry, but like, I don't know what what he would have caught there. It just looks so gross. Okay, anyway, one more point. The truly devious delusion pushers are all anonymous. And if you really thought you knew something that could change the world having to do with the second coming, you would be a street preacher, not a cryptic shit poster entertaining gullible, hope-scrolling erotomaniacs for JFK. And the word hope, this is a phrase, hope scrolling is what I'm referring to this, because you've got doom scrolling, looking for the bad news, body count, how many people died, how high the temperature's going, etc. But hope scrolling is where you keep scrolling until you feel something hopey, until you get the right combination of emojis to pull you out of your slump, so you can still hang on to the hope and still trust the plan. 7 years later, okay, let's see what else we have here. Lean Dion says, Q Mom is really Diana. Oh, Princess Diana. See, if Q Mom and Axel, who's JFK Jr., can get together. You know, this is a fact, if you believe the fake news. JFK Jr. and Ghislaine Maxwell were a thing for a while. I mean, how does that make any sense? Like Trump hanging out with his buddy there on Lolita Express. Okay, so here's an interesting one here. Steve Bannon from the War Room, former editor of Breitbart, major agitator on the right, fakes his own swatting whenever he needs attention. He has referred to themselves as the Trump Davidians. Trump's retribution campaign theme has roots in old Confederate code, a new book says. Carr reports that while Trump's team denies symbolism between the choice of venue and the 1993 clash between the government and the Branch Davidians, it was no coincidence. With the Trump Davidians. So, of course, Trump is now King David, which is notable. You know, he's Moses, he's King David, he's Jesus. He hasn't had his full-blown apotheosis yet, but it's coming. He'll be God at some point. Now, this is all interesting to me because Trump Davidians, it was in March, he kicks off his 2024 campaign, says it's the final battle, like Armageddon. And this is in the wake of the train wreck in Palestine, the heart of it all, Ohio. Blamed on Trump, but my point of it is, he kicks off in Waco, Texas. Well, the night before on Netflix, it's Waco, American Apocalypse. So you have the story of Waco, American Apocalypse, as Trump kicks off his campaign in Waco, which is ground zero for American white anti-government nationalism. Timothy McVeigh, Alex Jones, both radicalized there at Waco, where 33-year-old Dave Koresh, who thought he was Christ, was incinerated. His followers thought he was Christ as well. Again, the Burning Man symbolism is a big part of the incineration. I think it's all fake and staged. 1.6 million rounds. That's why the ATF went in there. That number sound familiar? And then Alex Jones goes on to Piers Morgan and rants about the 1.6 billion hollow points the DHS has, and that's why you can't take our guns because 1776 will commence again if you try to take our guns. It was over 1.6 billion rounds. Waco, 1.6 million rounds. Waco, Jones radicalized. Connect the dots. January 6, 1-6. Dominion sued for 1.6. They sued Fox for 1.6 billion for defamation. Again, this is just the theme. It's all fake and staged. But the fact that he kicks it off there in Waco tells you everything. And one more point. The whole thing about Waco was they're coming to take the guns. This is the turning point. This is when you go against the government. McVeigh, who also died at 33, he was executed on 6/11. He was inspired by the Turner Diaries, which has predictive programming for 9/11 type stuff in it. Even a bomb-filled plane going after the Capitol. But again, the Turner Diaries is about this turning point when the government comes to take the guns, and that's when the white nationalists get nuclear. That's when they revolt against the governments. So Turning Point USA, the Turner Diaries, was born on 9/11, 1933, not a coincidence. In 2020, the Turner Diaries came to life. 42 years after it was published, the cover art came to life as the McCloskeys, waving around their weapons at the BLM marchers. Okay, so anyway, Bannon's calling them the Trump Davidians, so they're owning it. This is pretty funny. Again, Ben Shapiro slamming Candace Owens. Been watching this thing, this debacle. Candace Owens kind of stepped out of her depth on this one, and Ben Shapiro is very in love with atrocity propaganda that supports his side, and the people in his company who aren't on his side, I think they're all going to go. There's something going on, so we'll keep our eyes on that. Candace Owens was interesting in 2022. She was 33, and she teamed up with Ye and the White Lives Matter fashion show thing, and that whole debacle that followed that. Again, she's married to the CEO of Parler, and Parler was where a lot of 1-6 was organized. Tim Ostman says, Ben is just foaming at the mouth. Candace is much more reasonable than him, at least right now. Yeah, nobody wants the story of 40 decapitated Israeli babies to be true more than Ben Shapiro. Like, if I heard a story that, yeah, a bunch of kids at a daycare nearby got killed, I'd be horrified. If I found out there was reasons to doubt it, I would be relieved. I'd be like, oh, look, this isn't true. Awesome. Good for those babies. No, Ben Shapiro's like, no, they're dead. Those babies are dead. You know, he's really adamant about believing it automatically, and because it's confirmation bias. He's very emotional. He's way too emotional to be a commentator on this stuff. He's way too attached. I don't think he's just the opposite of objective in it, but it's useful to study people on the fringes. Jamitra 101 says January 6th kicked off at 212. 212 degrees is water's boiling point. Interesting connection there. Now, 9/11 kicked off at 8:46 a.m. as Mercury was rising. And there's a movie called Mercury Rising with the face of buildings blowing up in movies, Bruce Willis. All these movies he did where, buildings are exploding. I'm like, okay, so he did a movie called uh, Mercury Rising. And it seems like that movie had some kind of 9/11 predictive programming, because it was like the kid in the movie, this autistic kid, is cracking code that allows him to see what's going to happen. He gets like secrets that cause him to be a threat to national security. Interestingly enough, the kid in the movie Mercury Rising is the son of someone who died on 9/11, if you believe that story. But again, Mercury Rising, 8:46 a.m. January 6th kicking off at 2:12. Fascinating. Going to continue scrolling through my notes. I'm doing a lot of research on cognitive dissonance. I had a pretty interesting article here from Scientific American, and we always talk about it like it's a bad thing, but what they're suggesting here, it's a good thing. Quote, although people may think cognitive dissonance is a bad thing, it actually helps to keep us mentally healthy and happy, which I take to be apathetic. Cognitive dissonance allows you to just ignore the contradictions instead of confronting it. And my take on it in general is that the world stage, the bread and circuses of our day, but the mass mediation perpetuates this cognitive dissonance. It's constantly creating contradictions on purpose. There's two realities overlapping, and the fringes are mirrors of each other. But my point of it is, cognitive dissonance is built into the system. It's choose your own reality. It's reality fluid. And I think it's designed to be that way, because if you're cognitively dissonant, you're going to be happy. You're going to be adjusting to the chaos, this new normal thing, the constant infusion of agitprop and contradictory propaganda, the flood of mis and disinformation. I think it's by design. This is Brave New World. It has to be. Rome says the intro song was a banger. Sands of Time, I put a link there. Diana South says cognitive dissonance is like wearing rose-colored glasses. Yeah, exactly. I think it's great that humans can adapt. We're designed to adapt. But it's also possible to adapt to substandard conditions, or to conditions that might even have some long-term deleterious effects on your psychic well-being. And my research on cognitive dissonance, I'm trying to figure out if it has any sort of effects on memory. Because I've come across a few people who are in this, who are talking about cognitive dissonance and psychological manipulation. And a couple of videos I found have gone into this topic, and I'm trying to find more, because I'm wondering, there might be a reason why the blue pillars, the dreamers as I call them, can't see patterns, why they don't recognize patterns, why they don't remember anything when it comes to the dreams that are fed to them. Like, it's just kind of, I think that it might be a result of the cognitive dissonance. Not to mention the visual illiteracy and the merging of real and fake. I don't wake the dreamers, by the way. I have no problem with them. Okay, continuing through our notes. Plain Decoded says the World Series 119 George Bush coincidence. His video here has almost 2,500 views. If you didn't catch this, the 119th World Series, George Bush throws the ball. He was the first one to throw a ball after the World Series began after 9/11. So kind of an interesting bookending, 22 years apart. Let me play this clip, because there might be some other stuff in here I missed. Again, this is a clip from Plain Decoded. Okay, the Texas Rangers just won the 119th edition of the World Series. 911 million viewers. making it the least watched. Okay, that's another interesting coincidence.
1 million viewers. And guess who threw out the first pitch of the first game? He's also a former owner of the Texas Rangers. Rangers Diamondbacks equals 119 and reverse reduction numerology gematria. What a nice coincidence.
What a nice coincidence, right? Now, 119 is an interesting one as well. Obviously, it's a reverse of 9/11. You can look at a lot of psyops that incorporate all the same numbers. 119 is, well, Alpha 119, nuke the moon. Genesis 11:9, Tower of Babel falling. A mirror of Revelation 9/11, which has to do with the abyss and correlates with the Twin Towers. We've been talking about this particular number in these how they're always paired together. Rodney King was beaten for 1 minute 19 seconds. Anybody care to guess how many times was Rodney King hit with a baton? And note the name King. You'll notice King and 33 are often correlated. And very soon I'll be getting some gold stars to send out to those of you who are first to answer. Exalt says 33, correct. He was hit 33 times. How old was Reginald Denny, who got bricked in the head and kind of ended the whole thing? Again, the name Reginald, another King reference. How old is Reginald Denny? Peter W. says 33. That is correct. Just more coincidences. Again, we already talked about these ones. Man arrested over the death of player number 47, leaving 47 days left in the year. He was on the ice for just under 47 minutes during the 2019-2020 season. Everyone's wearing 47s on their heads. And then we had this other grip of obvious coincidences where the other team's wearing 47s over their hearts. And on Sunday, the Panthers scored in the 47th minute, and the goalie had his career best of 47 saves in a 3-3 tie. Gematria says the King beating was on March 3rd as well, 3-3. Oh yeah, that's right. 3-3, the King beating. And that was also the anniversary of the passing of the George Floyd Act. George Floyd, 5/25/2020. Sunset, 8:46, 9/11 reference, Twin Cities, Twin Towers. 8:46, the time he was asphyxiated, ties to the starting of 9/11 Mercury rising. So another 9/11ing of America, another emergency. But also, 330 days after that, Derek Chauvin was convicted on 4/20, and there were only 33 people allowed in the courtroom. Jake the A-hole says, Tim, did you see the number one play on my top 10? I made a 9/11 connection during the breakdown of a play. Two players went down at the same time, 9 and 11. Feel free to drop a link. When I'm looking at this hockey game and the neck wound, I doubted it for a large part because of a lot of the stuff that's been raised about sports. If NFL is fake, if NBA is nothing but actors, then hockey's fake as well. Look, the athletics is real, the game is real, obviously. But these are world stage actors. I think that explains their money. I mean, how much would you have to get paid to be part of a club of liars? There's something up here. The other aspect too is the symbolism of it all connects to the same cult, which says everything. But the King beating's interesting. Again, you can correlate these things. The killing of the King ceremony, the number 33, Reginald Denny. And then we had that recent event on the dock in Alabama with a guy named Reggie Gray, 42, hitting people with a chair down the street from where Rosa Parks, who was 42, refused to give up her seat. And these are events that hit all the same symbolic links. Nicotrama says, oh really, let's bring that up. I was looking at the video. Let's pull this up here. Of the bricking of Reginald Denny. And the only thing that could explain it is some kind of like foam brick or something. Okay, I'm going to open up phones here if anybody wants to call in about if you have any kind of idea about what this thing might mean. this World Ahead 2024. Okay, so here's the article I was referencing. Taking a shortcut off the Santa Monica Freeway down Normandy Avenue was nothing out of the ordinary for the 33-year-old Reginald Denny. In the late afternoon of April 29th, he had loaded up his 18-wheeler, headed down the road for the transit mixed concrete. Little did he know he would drive smack into the middle of an angry mob looking for vengeance. So here it has him at 33. This is time. Okay, here we go. Jake the A-hole says 12:43 mark. Okay, let's take a look at this. I'm going to the channel of Jake the A-hole, and he put the link there if you want to subscribe. I highly recommend it. This is a big deal. Look, I often say you can't put a meaningful distinction between the fake news, infotainment, and the entertainment. You can include sports in that. Okay, here we go. I'm going to play a clip here. The 10 most unreal NFL plays, Week 10. 64,000 subs. You're doing well. Okay, let's play this.
All right, so here's my favorite part, and this is where things get absolutely batshit crazy. All right, you got number 9, and he's doing some blocking, and then you got number 11. Pay very close attention. Number 9, number 11. Number 9, number 11. Watch both of them at the exact same time do something very strange. Number 11, no one's even touching him. Now watch this.
Wow, that was synchronized. So if you're just listening, players 9 and 11, in a very synchronized fashion, both dive gracefully, simultaneously onto the ground. Falling at free fall speed here. This is choreographed. I don't think this is real.
Watch
They
both
didn't
of them at the exact same time do something very strange. Number 11, no one's even touching him. Now watch this.
What a joke. So they knew what they were doing. This is so synchronized. Fascinating. Great clip. Thank you for sharing. I'll put that link in our Minds feed. And they fall at 3:11 left in the second quarter. Even more interesting. You get into the connections between 3:11 and 9:11. There is something there. There's a relationship between the two. 3:11 was the new 9:11. You can look at it that way. As far as major league transformative psyops that kind of reboots everything for generational psyops. Okay, let's continue. I put a link to Sands of Time, the intro song, if anybody wants that. It's right there on minds.com. So we were talking about the abyss and how it has to do with aliens and mega tsunamis, and that's been the big theme. The destroyer from the abyss, mega tsunamis. There were simulations last summer, the summer before last, in Seattle for what an earthquake would do in Seattle, how it would cause a 42-foot tsunami to hit the Space Needle. So to have James Cameron attached to the abyss, and the message at the end is the aliens are going to wipe us out with a mega tsunami unless we change our ways, unless we stop war. Tim Osman says, maybe one day we'll have an NFL whistleblower who tells us Jake's narrative about players being in on the shtick. Yeah, it's not like one or two guys. There's a point where you're looking at a club and, we're not in it. George Carlin was in it. He said, you're not in it. He didn't say we. Jake says, Dwight Smith admitted it. All right, Tim, look it up. Former Super Bowl champ. Yeah, I've heard a number of clips, and, we're talking about non-disclosure agreements, I'm sure. And who knows what else. The layers of compromise that goes into this. I think what we saw on the ice with the hockey player Adam Johnson, player 47, was a squib. I think it was just squibby. And if you don't know what a squib is, it's old school movie magic for faking a wound. Squibby Abe, Remember, Shinzo Abe, Trump's friend, shot the former Prime Minister of Japan? That was a squib. He had some lever in his jacket and he squeezed it and it pumped the blood out. Leonard said that's why it's called sports entertainment. I can understand why. I mean, to maintain it, to control it, to make it, predictable in a certain way. Like, I think to maintain everybody's interest, there has to be a heavy hand guiding these sports and how they dramatize it all. Like with World Wrestling Entertainment. But I think the other aspect of it is it's used as a propaganda venue. And it's used in these weird, bizarre, cryptic rituals, which are all part of this predictive programming matrix where they're conditioning you, habituating you, planting seeds because they know something. Think about this, the Netflix, we always talk about Netflix and how it predicts the future. Well, the first CEO and co-founder is a descendant of Edward Bernays and Sigmund Freud. So this tells you everything. They know all about propaganda, the public mind. They've created a, quote, massified mind, is what I call it. They created this massified mind, and Freud, they know what's under the hood. They know how to program you at a subconscious level. Exalt says Taylor Swift is with a football player, apparently. Yeah, I've never really paid too much attention to Taylor Swift, and I noticed she's unavoidable right now, so I thought, okay, she's having her time in the spotlight. Let me guess, how old is she? Anybody care to guess, compete for the gold star, how old is Taylor Swift? And this is very consistent, you'll notice, whenever you have somebody who's just conspicuously thrown out in front of everybody. Anybody care to guess? And again, I'm going to be giving out gold stars very soon for the first one to get these ones right. I'll give you a hint. It's the same number of rounds that Frank James fired into the subway car that was the only one without CCTV. Violet says she is 33. You are correct. Jungle Jim says, seems like every year during the Super Bowl Media Week, some player admits it's rigged to some degree. The thing of it is, nobody would believe it. Jungle Jim also says she's 50. Well, she might be. How old is Zena LeVay? Who renamed her, the daughter of Anton LaVey, founded the Church of Satan, now goes by Zena Shrek. But how old is she? 59. And she still looks like Taylor. I don't know if you've heard this, but it's a ongoing thing, like JonBenet Ramsey and Kate Perry. Well, Zena LeVay and Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift does incorporate a lot of Eyes Wide Shut satanic imagery into her shows. Someone said on some video somewhere that they cost the tickets are like $1,500. I thought flatflation was bad. It's like, yeah, you want to go to a Flat Earth conference, it's going to be $250 a seat at some smelly casino. There you go. Which one is Zena LeVay the Satanist and which one is Taylor Swift? I can't tell the difference. Violet says she just had a puzzle having to do with 33 and had her fans doing it. Interesting. Interesting. Any Taylor Swift fans have a 33 puzzle? Okay. Taylor Swift fans solve 33 million Google puzzles. Interesting. Okay, let's move on here. Jake the A-hole says she's with Travis Kelce, who is left open on purpose to score touchdowns. Their relationship is fake. The Eagles have Kelsey's brother and a running back named Swift. Okay, the names often give this stuff away. Like let's go back a moment. Derek Chauvin. The name Derek is from a hangman. The name Derek, if you look at the etymology, it's from some hangman who was credited with hanging 3,000. So if you look at George Floyd's death as a 9/11ing of America, the guy doing the hanging, the asphyxiation, the hangman, is named Derek after a hangman. There's a part on a crane called a derrick because this hangman made some modification to the gallows with a pulley system called a derrick. And then his other name, Chauvin, is obviously Western chauvinism. The Proud Boys call themselves Western chauvinists. So Derrick, Western chauvinism, the West's hangman, was doing that execution. The names are just always a big reveal. Okay, moving on. Taylor Swift's 33 million puzzles refers to a collaboration between Google and the pop star. Very interesting. They solved 33 million puzzles in less than 24 hours. How nifty Swifties cracked 33 million puzzles. Look, I'm not obsessed with numbers, they are. Again, this is pattern recognition. And if you're not hooked on blue pills, you can do it. Nobody will believe you, though. You're a conspiracy theorist if you see patterns, where there are patterns. But if you assert there to be patterns where there aren't, you're a mainstream news believer. They always put narrative ahead of facts. And I'm just looking at facts. I don't have the full narrative. I don't have the story. Exalt says it's mandatory for players in pretty much any professional sport to be on steroids. See, wouldn't that alone constitute a veil of secrecy, something that binds everyone? Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, Tim. I thought I'd let you in on some of the details of that Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce deal. It looks like it's a business relationship, not a real relationship at all. Taylor Swift can sell out any NFL stadium by herself on any given night, back-to-back nights, what have you, whereas some of the NFL teams can't sell out their own stadiums. You see what I'm saying? So she is alone more popular than any given NFL team, basically. And so to have her along, I could imagine the NFL handing her an ungodly amount of money to be in a pretend relationship, or they might just be told to do this, by the higher ups, what have you. But their relationship is literally just her showing up to games and them showing a camera view of her in a box, celebrating when he scores. And they don't lose whenever she shows up. So there's a few different storylines tied in with the Taylor Swift thing. And it comes back to money, of course. They're getting a bunch of new viewers who would never watch football, women especially, to tune in for the Taylor Swift narrative. Also, the Kelce jersey has spiked in sales something like 400 or 500%. So women are buying the Kelce jersey. And now you have women like, oh, I wish I had a boyfriend like Kelce, so
Okay.
it's definitely
Genius.
a big marketing scheme. You see what I'm saying? It's not natural at all. And so if you look at who they're having her team up with, his twin brother is on the Eagles. They played each other in last year's Super Bowl. So one of the storylines was that the Kelce brothers played each other in last year's Super Bowl. And now the Eagles have a running back with the last name Swift. So you have the Eagles with Kelce and Swift, and then you have the Chiefs, Kelce and Swift. And
Okay.
those are the two teams that played each other in the Super Bowl. They're playing each other on Monday Night Football coming up, believe it or not. So this Kelce narrative thing is deep in the script of the psychological, programming and the world stage going on.
Fascinating, because you're taking a huge portion of the population and directing them back into football and Americana, and then the girl at the sideline cheering for her hero boyfriend on the football field. I can see this being part of a package selling a certain vision. And as far as getting people to look, I mean, yeah, you're right. She's a huge draw. And I see her here wearing the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, KC, 11-3. All the usual symbols attached to this. But yeah, this is definitely a part where, aside from the game itself being rigged and fake, the whole sideshow is fake, like WWE has their sideshow.
So the Chiefs won the Super Bowl in State Farm Stadium last year in Arizona, and the Chiefs have a deal with State Farm where Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback, and the coach Andy Reid all do commercials with State Farm. And so when you see that the guys who are on TV every single game for every single NFL commercial are also the guys in the Super Bowl, and it's the same colors, State Farm as the Chiefs colors, and they win in State Farm Stadium. So a lot of these things, like when predicting football games, I have to look at these storylines And so I'm trying to keep my eyes peeled for a possible Super Bowl connection coming up. The next one is going to be in Las Vegas. It'll be the first Super Bowl ever in Las Vegas. And I have a feeling that Kansas City Chiefs team is going to be there again, because if they're going to get as many bets as they possibly can, that's definitely a team that's going to draw a ton of money. So I can't say for sure they're going to be in the Super Bowl again, but I'm keeping an eye on stuff like this just from a money-making standpoint, because I like to place my own bets,
Okay, now this is interesting because right now, Fallout Las Vegas. There's this a Fallout game. I think Musk had tweeted about it. So I was looking at Vegas, and Fallout, of course, refers to a nuke, where you get the whole thing about blackouts and stuff. And Super Bowl 47 was the blackout bowl, and here we are coming
Yeah.
on Super Bowl 57, and the presidency number 47. And I'm thinking there's got to be something here with this constant reference to 47s, and I think it might tie into this 33 minutes of darkness. But anyway, this big Super Bowl is being super hyped for a reason. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm glad you drew our attention to this, because why are they having us all look? They must want the maximum number of eyeballs on the screen around that time for whatever's going to happen.
So that video the clip that I sent you, I knew you would see those two players going down is just absolutely, beyond coincidence. And you don't have to know football to see what you saw. So you had number 9 and number 11 both just go down the exact same way right there. And it happened at 3 minutes and 11 seconds left in the second half, or in second quarter. And so I, during that video, said, I wonder if there'll be possibly an event that goes down on March 11th. And when I uploaded the video, it would not pass the ad check. It wouldn't allow me to run ads on the video. So I went back and I edited out that part where I made the March 11th connection, but still left in that clip that you saw. And it passed, and now it's approved for ads. Ads are running. And so just that little tiny piece of information, me connecting it to 3/11, March 11th, and saying maybe something goes down, was enough for them to for the computer to not let the ads run.
Fascinating.
And then me taking that out,
Yeah.
automatically approved and making money on it.
It's
So,
like they know what dots they don't want connected, and they can't have these dots connected because it will lead to something else. And yeah, you're onto something with this. And when those guys fell in that video, the 9 and the 11, it looked like synchronized swimmers to me. They weren't even looking at each other. I mean, it was just perfect. They were synchronized.
I've never seen anything like that. I've been covering fake football for 2 seasons now and doing the top 10 every week, and that's the first time I've ever had anything like that happen, and it just jumped out to me. I was like, whoa, that was weird. And then when I looked, I was like, number 9 and number 11, and I was like, what the fuck? And that's when my brain started going crazy. So, yeah, I haven't seen them code something as blatant as that, and I think I might be the only person who noticed that. So right now, me bringing it to your attention, because I knew you would get it right away. Like, that's not something a drunken fan in the stands would even notice at all. Like, no chance. So just the fact that I was able to spot it and make that connection, like, I got to be one of the only people
I think so. And
could have possibly even spotted that.
I kind of had this theory that even though the average drunken fans watching it don't notice it consciously, I think it's absorbed subconsciously, and that's why they do it. I think they're downloading this info into people's heads, and you're aware. So you have a mental immune system, and you see the programming, whereas they have mind aids, and they just catch any mind virus. So yeah, you are probably the only person looking at it with this level of awareness that saw that, because you're not caught up in the illusion.
So, yeah, like I said, I've seen a ton of fake plays, and I break down fake plays every week, but that took it to another level. And everyone in my comment section is even saying, like, holy shit, like, that was like they're just straight up mocking people at home with that.
Oh,
know?
yeah, well,
or maybe it's like, a signal that something could go down, in the future. I don't know. So, this is just very strange that the players both automatically did that It was almost like they were being remote controlled. It was just so strange.
Yeah, that's why I said synchronized swimming. It was too perfect. Any thoughts on Adam Johnson getting his throat slashed NHL?
I heard about it, but I didn't ever go back and watch that myself. So I've heard about it just secondhand through your channel, and so just hearing about it sounds fake. But I haven't personally went to go check it out, so I guess I should probably do that.
Yeah, there's not a lot to it, but just the fact that sports are so eminently fakeable really made me question this thing, and I'm glad I did because ever since it's just coded with the number 47, and it's all about the 40. It's like Damar Hamlin all over again, but with this other guy, Adam Johnson. But there's not a lot to look at visually, but all the indicators are it's a hoax.
Yeah, I would lean towards hoax for sure.
Right. Well, hey, I appreciate the call very much, and feel free to post your channel. I'm glad that you're doing well with it. I mean, that's a lot of people watching. I'm going to go check out the comments later on tonight just to see what people think about this, because that's undeniable. There's no reason you could tweet that football player and say, "What the hell happened at this moment that made you fall on the ground in the exact same way the other guy fell?" It was just too perfect.
Yeah. So I'm thinking I'm gonna definitely clip that one up and maybe make some short content with that one too, and maybe run it up the flagpole a few times and see what happens. But all right, I'll let you get back to your show, and thanks for showing that clip. I do appreciate it, and I'll be listening.
Awesome. Anytime. Have a great night. All right, everyone. This is Jake the A-hole with a great clip from the NFL. Just another example of how it's fakeable, to rig a game on this level when everybody's in on it. So now it's not just one person. The enormity of it escapes some people. Like when they look at these shootings, they think, well, who did it? Well, the media did it. The producers, the media is actually producing the event. They're not actually recording something that's organically happening. Tim Ostman says we're all dumber now after listening to that caller. I don't know how you would arrive at that. I mean, the fact that people are uncritically believing anything they see on the screen is bad enough. And then sports is a major blind spot, and very few people are shining a light on how fakeable it all is. I mean, some people don't want to let go of their heroes. They don't want to let go. Oh, wrestling can't be fake. You have to be careful talking about fake wrestling. Don't want to offend somebody. Well, sports is fake, and news is fake, and Q is fake, and JFK is not coming back. Infinite Plane Radio.
Greetings, it's Travis Kelsey.
Oh, Travis Kelsey, you're the date.
I heard y'all talking about me. My ears are getting hot.
I'm going to have to take you at your word that you're him, because I've never actually heard the guy speak. I thought you sounded like Oliver Anthony.
I'm totally fine if you oughta hoax me on that, because I'm saying I got a sweet hell of a chick man right next to me, Taylor. 'Cause people don't know Taylor's a boy's name too.
All right. What are your thoughts on the players number 9 and number 11?
All right, I'm going to tell you something, because somebody wrote it in chat who I do not know by the name of 5 Minutes of Fame. He sounds like a very intelligent man. What he said was, New York State applied, and several other states, Pennsylvania, etc., the NFL, Major League Baseball, they've all applied for an entertainment status like the WWE, but only after they got legalized gambling in the state on sports. So do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay, so if you're rigging the game, and yes, that makes perfect sense.
So here's how it goes. If you add up all the salaries of all the players in all the NFL and all the advertising revenue and all the ticket sales and all the hot dogs sold in the parking lot, it does not equal to the amount of money that is in the gambling industry. So in other words, if you were to watch, let's say, Jets versus whoever, Cardinals or something, right? You added up all the fans, all the advertisement, and all the other stuff. It came out to $113 million day, let's just say. And then you go to the sports betting, and you realize that $430 million was bet across the country on these games. The real big pool to rob is not the NFL, but the gambling industry. So now what Jake said is very true because it's been proven since the time of the Black Sox. Now, that's, a group of players in the White Sox decided to throw the game and bet on it against
Wow.
themselves to win a lot of money. That's a classic, thing. And it's 5 minutes of fame, man. I can't keep up to Travis Kelsey. It's totally numbing my brain out,
Okay, well,
man.
look. Port Complex says this guy makes
But that's
moonshine
true.
100%. You sound like you make moonshine.
Yeah, that's me. That's what is it? Popcorn Sutton.
Well, hey, look. According to Tim Osman in the chat, quote, football being fake is not plausible.
Yeah, it has to be plausible because, like what I said. So now you could do this run of the mill flea market type cash. We got money coming in, money coming out, and this and that and the other thing. And every day you break down the books. If it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, they're looking and they're like, we only made $30 million on this game and this. All right, now you take the gambling industry, right? You throw a game, you have odds, you have things like that. So when you look at games, the odds always change until game time, and then you could play. You could even bet during the game. So if I'm watching a game and someone's down by 2 touchdowns in the second quarter, I could still bet on the losing team, and they might say, you know what, we'll give you $4 for every dollar you bet. And if you bet on the favorite, they'll say, we'll give you 10 cents for every dollar you bet. So if you bet $4, we'll give you $4.40. But if you bet $4 the other way, we'll give you $16. So what happens is you have some type of thing going on where you could orchestrate everything. You make this one team come in strong for the first 2 quarters, and you constantly just keep dumping your money on the underdog. And then, boom, you turn it around second half. And every dollar that you bet, you get 4 or 5 or 13 or whatever. And this pool, let's just say, is 118 million on a not a Super Bowl game, right? You could literally scoop out 40, 50 million out of that with nobody saying a word and only putting up a couple of $100,000 to get that return.
Sounds like you've done this before.
No, but I know mobsters, and I know the way one of the biggest dives that there ever was Mike Tyson. And he didn't intentionally take the dive. So if you remember correctly, when he was married to Robin Givens, she claimed he raped him, and they forced him, court order. It was actually case law set with him that he had to be forced on Prozac. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but I think I've heard it mentioned
You can
before.
Google it.
Now,
So the judge decided that since you're what was the word they used? Manic depressive. I think the term was manic depressive in the late 80s, early 90s. So they forced him to go on Prozac. What that does is that totally messes up your adrenal gland, So Mike Tyson was an angry fighter. Mike Tyson was trained and everything like that, but he was a guy who ran on adrenaline. So he'd come into the ring like, what did you say about my mother? And the guy's like, I didn't say nothing about your mother. And he'd be like, I'm going to mess you up. And then when the ring started, he was like a Tasmanian devil. You watch the Buster Douglas fight, he never quite had that. And even though it went an extended amount of time, he was never a Tasmanian devil in that fight.
I see. Well, on a related note, he is now selling what are called Mike Bites. Have you heard of these?
Are they CBD chews?
Yes.
Oh, their ears. I see on the screen. Oh, my God. Oh, I'm telling you, so delicious.
Yeah, they're literally Evander Holyfield ears with CBD
I got
and
them in
THC.
2 flavors now. I got it in Earmite flavor and wax. Wax flavor. It's very good. Hey, I tell you, somebody says to me to do Rodney. All right, what a crowd.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look. This is the thing here. Ear-shaped gummies.
Oh
with
my
a chunk
God,
missing.
it's horrible.
You know what's weird about this though is this is a Mandela effect. Apparently, he didn't bite the ear off, but a lot of people remember that, or so they say. But he's played into it, and I'm sure he's making a good amount of money on these things.
He bit a piece of the ear. Did he just nick it and not remove an actual chunk of the ear? Because I remember reported as he actually took a chunk off the ear.
I would say when somebody says "I remember," I always say that in quotes. I hear it in quotes because there's.
This was what 23 years ago.
Whenever it was, and then when you remember, it's like, well, you heard a lot of people saying what happened. Did you actually see it? And these things get conflated very fast, and that's why there's a Mandela effect. So the Mandela affected believe that the ear was bitten off and they saw it getting spat out, when that's probably a recollection combining a lot of parodies and jokes and misconceptions.
I had a Mandela effect the other day. Something that I remember that I can't remember. So you know Chips Ahoy cookies, right?
Yes, I do.
Sure. Right. There was another cookie that was out in the 80s and 90s that was a competing brand with Chips Ahoy. And they would always brag about who has the most chips in the cookie. We're better than Chips Ahoy and I cannot remember the name. I Googled, I did everything. I watched 80s commercials. I cannot remember this. But there was a competing brand with Chips Ahoy, and it no longer exists. It's not Almost Home. It's not Wally Famous Amos. It's none of that. It was something that literally looked like Chips Ahoy. It was like Chip Rageous or something to that effect. But it wasn't Chip Rageous.
And it
no,
no
it
longer
wasn't Keebler. It was none of that, man.
and it no longer exists.
And no, I can't find anything about it. It's gone. Gone from my brain and gone from the internet. So I don't necessarily doubt this Mandela effect thing. I mean, like we figured out family publishing is not Publishers Clearinghouse, and that yes, indeed, McMahon did have a check, but he was alongside Dick Clark, and it was American Family. It was not Publishers Clearinghouse. And they, of course, they went down the tubes, and everybody just remembers this Publishing Clearinghouse because they're still running the scam. Buy magazines from us and get $1 million for life.
Right, right. I have
Now
debunked
you
a
know
lot
the
of these things,
magazines,
but look,
right?
I believe this. I don't think
You
that.
know what the magazine scam is, right? I mean, anything you talk about is a scam. So Publishers Clearinghouse, right? These magazines are not relevant unless they have circulation. So they literally tell Publishers Clearinghouse, listen, man, you could sell year subscriptions or whatever for a nickel. You could pay us a nickel for the year subscription, and you could charge $23 for Cosmo or Vogue or whatever. And as long as we have people reading them, then we can advertise in them. But nobody buys your magazine. You couldn't charge nothing because there's no circulation. So that's the whole scam of the magazines. The magazines are worthless. They're already printed, and if it's do they mail it to your house or not?
Well, one point here though is that when it comes to the Mandela effects, like maybe you have one, maybe you don't. What they'll do is you debunk one, they go to the next one, they go to the next one. But my contention is that you can debunk the phenomenon categorically. And Occam's razor. What's more likely, the universe shifted, and you're the only, and you still remember this brand of chips, or you have a misremembering, you're having a faulty or a false
Now
memory.
that I'm pushing 50, I definitely accept that I could be flawless. You know what I mean? That I'm not flawless. That definitely my mind will, I can meet people and 3 minutes later I don't even remember their name. And I usually make it a deal that if we're interacting, what's your name? Nice to meet you. My name is blank. And yeah, that's it. That's it. But I could definitely say that, for things that I remembered when I was younger, I definitely remembered them more accurately, but now my recollection system is on the whack.
Well,
So I can't even say that if I dig it into the DVR of my brain, it's going to come out as an uncorrupted file. I don't know.
look, every time you access a memory, it comes back slightly corrupted. And memory is a very interesting thing. So I love the Mandela effect as a topic because it raises so many important points about memory, recollection, and how it
Did you
all
did you
works.
ever research the Hutchinson effect?
Which one is that?
Oh, so the guy in Hutchinson, he went to Navy auctions, and he would buy like big radio equipment and stuff for pennies on the dollar from ships. So the story is technically he got the Philadelphia experiments ship equipment. And what he started doing, he started messing with these transmitters, like radio transmitters, microwave transmitters, and things like that. And weird things would start to happen. But then what he did was he started putting a static generator into the room. So the whole room was like a big static field. And then he started hitting things with the microwaves. and solid metals would melt but remain cold. And like a telephone would melt, a plastic telephone would melt, but it would remain cold, or a bowling ball would start floating.
Okay, here it is. The
So
Hutchinson effect is a mysterious scientific phenomenon that cannot be explained by science but includes the defiance of gravity.
the gravity. So anyway, the real phenomenon that I believe, with my very basic scientific knowledge, is he figured out a way to disrupt molecular bonds. So whatever goes on when he hits it with this energy or whatever, it unravels the electric bonds and then they come back together. Now I listened to I listened to everybody, I told you. Hutchinson, Dr. Judy Wood. So she's theorized that the Hutchinson effect was used on the World Trade Center. That's why these stainless steel towers and everything, when they fell over, they turned to dust.
Fascinating,
And
fascinating.
and there's a lot of the same things in Lahaina. So I don't know what they got with planes or set up tractor trailers with weapons or who knows what they got. But they took all of Hutchinson's shit. It took him years to give it back to him. He had to sue them and everything. And basically they learned what they had to learn and then they gave it back.
Well,
So who knows?
yeah. Well,
Who knows?
my take, when it's Lahaina or 9/11, what's more likely, direct energy weapons or movie magic? And I'm still thinking it's all movie magic, but this Hutchinson effect.
Do you think that these kids went missing, or
No.
do you think this was a scam? Like, because they say that 4,000 kids are not registered in school, and only 300 from the Lahaina or something showed up at other islands to register for school.
Yeah, I think they explained it away, but no, there was no real case made for there being missing children, and that current thing quickly passed into the background when Israel happened. But no, those missing kids were never located because they never
Doesn't it
existed.
seem like the minute people start getting the vibe of, yeah, I'm not interested in this anymore, that's when they whip out the new show?
Yeah,
It's like vaudeville. Like, hey, the dancing gypsies aren't really getting the crowd's attention. Have Billy the Pimple Popper come on next. Quick, kick them off the
yes,
stage. So in other words, Ukraine, it's getting stale. Exit stage left. Lahaina. Yeah, Lahaina, people don't really care anymore. Israel. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, and then we'll have holidays to distract us, and we won't care about any of that stuff. And they're pretty good about this. The world stage never allows there to be any dead air. They don't want a vacuum because it's the attention economy, and there's such
Well,
competition.
it's against their rules for FCC. You know, if I was on the radio as a broadcaster and I had something stuck in my throat or something and I couldn't talk for like 7 minutes, I better play a record or something or I'll get fined for dead air.
Yeah.
So you think about, they make this rule for no real reason. I mean, if there was 6 seconds of silence on your radio station, would you really care? But they would get fined for that. So what is your fine for not keeping a new show going on for the world stage, right?
They bleed. They're hemorrhaging loosh, and it's going to people that they don't control, people like us.
If you rule by fear, if you let people drop their adrenaline a little bit, they might take a look around and not be focused dead center. And you got to keep their eyes on the stage, brother.
Well, I think they go from horror to drama or I guess more like salacious stuff. Like right now, the big story is Will Smith. It's like one minute we're talking about dead babies, and the next moment we're talking about gross stuff with these celebrities that's meant to divert your attention. And it's intermittent with horror and pleasure, horror and shock, but horror and like depravity. But yeah, it never gets boring.
No, not at all. You said, well, so do you see the problem is, if you look at even in Roman times, when they show you the faces for the theater, there is always the sad or whatever, and then the happy. They're doing it wrong. They're doing fear and depression and fear and depression. You got to have some hey, you need some comedy in there. Hey, I tell you.
Yeah, yeah, comic relief, and that's what I think NASA is part of the comic relief. A bunch of clowns up there. NASA astronauts dropped the toolbox into space, and now you can get your binoculars and you can see it. I mean, we couldn't. I'm sure.
Well, you've seen my video, Gravity in Space. The guy has a wrench, and the pendulum at the end of the wrench swings like it's on Earth. So how are you in space? And now if my pendulum moves like that in a video, when you drop your toolbox, it should be heading to the Earth at 36,000 miles an hour because that's the way the weight on his wrench would have went.
Well, now they say it's space junk and it's going to burn up in our atmosphere. I don't think you would go out into the water like that with your toolbox if it wasn't like tied to you or leashed to you in some way. Oh, I mean space.
Go out into the water. You mean the water's above the firmament?
Yeah.
Or do you mean the water's in the movie pool?
Look, I would challenge anybody who thinks the ISS is real. Show me any clip of the astronauts on a spacewalk, anybody out there, and tell me it's not underwater because the lighting diffuses.
Whenever they do something without a green screen and zero gravity, he's like, look at this soda, and I'm going to spin it around and then open it and drink it. Okay. First of all, there's no cans of soda allowed. You know that. Everything is like a Capri Sun pouch, quote unquote, according to them. So how are you bringing a can of Coca-Cola onto this thing? You know, how do you have the Chinese space station had one where she had a glass from like a kitchen table out on the space station with water in it, and it was just sitting perfectly like like on Earth. There was no water floating around. So what I think they do is it's all green screen, but when they need to do something, they get on the plane, and then they do the 90-second clip while they do the dive. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The simulated zero gravity.
Yeah, look, I won't believe the space station's real till they send a cat up there. Because a cat wouldn't be able to fake space. There's no way you can get it to behave with the wires and the cords and all that.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. And if he starts spraying, send an unfixed one. So when he starts spraying, you could see the mist. You'd be like, man, this mist is kicking. Whoa.
They couldn't fake that. Like, I've never seen an astronaut sneeze. I don't think they could fake a lot of stuff.
I think I heard weird stories about, like, yeah, there's a lot of fecal matter all over the space station because the toilet doesn't suck it out completely. So every time you leave the bathroom, little tiny microscopic bits. So this place is basically swimming in E. coli. I've heard that. I've heard that there's pee-pee everywhere. Then I hear they're recycling the pee-pee to drink. Like, well, come on.
If you really get down to it, you'd have to ask, like, every time you look at the astronauts, they're clean shaven. They have nice haircuts. You're up there for 6 months. Go camping for 6 months. You're going to have a beard. So, in other words, they're shaving, but what are they shaving with? You look at their shaving kits, and it's like it looks like a camping kit. It's like a little pouch. There's my toothbrush. There's my razor. It's like there's no way these people are. And then what's worse,
shaving.
Not only that, Botox, hair dye, Botox.
Those little tiny bits of hair would be flying all over the place.
As well as Botox injections, hair dye. I've seen all this stuff taking place on the ISS, which tells me it's moving. Not to mention the hairspray.
Yeah, it's got to be total BS, man. And especially if you're in a controlled oxygen atmosphere, why would you add in like one spray of fluorocarbons and crap into there?
Ozone. Yeah, right. The ozone hole, exactly.
Right, or whatever it is, propane, whatever they use as a propellant, plus the lacquer and the hairspray, it's stupid. So technically, how long are they claiming this is up there? 1990?
See, as far as reality TV shows, it's got to be one of the longest running. It's up to the year 23.
23 years it's been up there. So in 2000 they got the space station going?
Like 99 or something. Yeah, it's easily.
See, there's my memory, because I remember they had the Mir space station. Is that the one from the 80s and the 90s?
Yeah, you had Mir, you had Skylab, and then, of course, ISS. Now you have the Celestial Palace, the Chinese.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, who got paid $1 million to come up with that name? It's so sad, Tim. It's so sad with all the money they took.
I honestly believe, I was predicting more or less that they were going to introduce a new space station with better special effects and replace and phase out the ISS. And then I look at what they have brought, and it's like they step back. It's a joke. They're not going to improve. So that's good news. That's good news.
Well, I said it before, and I'll say it again. The way you trick people is you make them think you go bankrupt or you lose a war or something. But the fact of the matter is the government is the overlay. The government is the app running over the app. The government is the goggles that you wear, VR goggles, when you're really bumping into shit in your living room, but it looks like everything is great with the goggles on. That's the government. All right, so anyway, they're pulling the plug on us. If you believe things, I know if you don't auto hoax everything. If you believe we found a UFO, be it interdimensional or interplanetary. We found these alien beings. We reverse engineered it. We now have machines that can conquer gravity and fly at the speed of light and then make a 90-degree turn and nobody inside turns to mush. If you believe that, and that's true, right? Now, also with America having, the Great Lakes and drinking water and wood and oil and everything like that, the illusion is run thin. They already made the bioweapons. They already made the UFOs. They already, and they don't want us anymore. So they're going to tell us we lost our country from war or economics or something like that, and they don't want you to profit. Because if we really did indeed, our parents and grandparents' tax money, back engineer these UFOs, then basically we own them. But McDonnell Douglas or Raytheon or whatever is going to tell you, oh, yeah, you helped pay for this, so you're part owner. No, they'd rather see America fall down and keep the patent for themselves, It's like that story about Malaysia flight. What was that?
The one that disappeared.
That vanished, and people are claiming they have a videotape of orbs going around the plane and it going poof, and other people on flight tracker watched it vanish. Dabu 7 was big on that. I think Dabu 7 got made from that because he'd say, like, the people in the Malaysia flight aren't dead, Jack. And he would go on there, and then everybody in Malaysia is like, hey, this guy said our relatives ain't dead. We'll listen to him.
Could that have been like
he
a
was
tie-in?
Up to like 4 million spreading hope.
It could have been a promo for that show Lost. I remember at the time CNN's Don Lemon said a black hole might have caused it. So like the people who believe all of the stuff.
Well, was he bending over or not? Because
I'm just saying, look, a black hole on the Earth caught the jet. Anyway, hey, appreciate the call very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Tim.
All right, have a great evening. All right, everyone. That is Taylor Swift's boyfriend, the football player Kels. I didn't get his first name. He was taking a break from making some moonshine, and then he morphed into 5 minutes of fame. Okay, let's see here. Into the Break says, Daily Wire has been hard on the moon landings lately. What's up with that? Look, if anybody in the mainstream goes against the moon landings, it's only because they're going to say America did it to trick the Russians to win the space race, but space is real, satellites are real, Starlink satellites are real, moon landings may be faked, but the next ones are going to be real. So it's a guardrail. It's kind of like a funny thing happened on the way to the moon. They weren't on the way to the moon. They were making a movie about it. It's where they give you half the truth to show you that, yeah, you're right, it was a lie. But they don't give you the entire explanation. All right, I wanted to go through this thread here. I put out an article in 2017, Elon Musk, the Martian Pope, and I had predicted that he would assume the role on the world stage of Constantine. Since then, he has, with his purchase of Twitter, now X, putting the glowing cross on the headquarters like Constantine's vision of the cross when he said he was going to unify the empire. And Musk says this is the everything app. And it's all part of the assemblage of the new Bible, the consolidation of mass media, which is the Bible of the MSM church. But they're in the process of purifying it. You have to get rid of the Apocrypha, burn the heretical texts. Musk's role also involves the space communism as an ideal. Well, that's just neo-feudalism. Space communism. It's pretty much like the Red Planet. It's really about communism. And my point of it is, of course, this correlates with Constantine and serfdom. I pointed this out before. Well, America Hidden, or America Hidden, post this, the banned Elon Musk thread. This is a primer to the Technocratic Christ series. So here's Musk with his Tesla cross on his chest. Someone pointed out that it's an anagram for steel. Anyway, sorry about that. I got a minute there. I was muted. So this is a thread about Elon Musk and his world stage role. So chapter 1, Elon's upbringing. Meet Elon's grandfather, Joshua Handelman, head of Canada's technocracy movement. Technocracy believes in, or it's the idea that the government or the control of society should be in the hands of elite technical experts. People who are really good at faking shit. Shock, Elon Musk's grandfather was head of Canada's technocracy movement. He was the head of Technocracy Inc. in Canada. That's his grandfather. Fascinating. Now, Musk is a combination of Jack Parsons, Werner von Braun, Iron Man, Constantine, Willy Wonka. Other than that, though, I don't know if there's any original Musk in there. He's like this blank slate and they project all this stuff onto it. Okay, let me read through some of this guy's notes. This is pretty good. Elon Musk's grandfather, again, technocracy. Former Nazi and head of NASA Werner von Braun predicted a man named Elon would conquer Mars in a 1952 novel. About his mother, she was into African witchcraft, which is plausible. She moved to South Africa at the age of 2 or 3. Elon is currently with a witch Grimes, who's friends with Azealia Banks, a self-professed practicing witch. I mean, like the types that cut the heads off chickens in rituals. Look it up. So Elon Musk has witchcraft connections. These elite are Luciferian witches. Tesla has been supported and subsidized by government via tax credits all the way through. Again, Tesla, anagram for steel. And Musk, look, there's something else too. Nikola Tesla. If you look at the images of Nikola Tesla, he's often shown with like ball lightning in his hands. And the person who's credited with having discovered static electricity is Thales of Miltius, who's also the first person to have predicted a total solar eclipse, 585 BC. He's credited with having discovered electrostatic charging. Anyway, I think Thales is an anagram for Tesla. Not perfect, but because there's the H there. But if you look at many of the images of him, you'll see the statues where he's holding lightning in his hands. And he's credited with many discoveries that are all attached to him. And in many ways, it reminds me of a Nikola Tesla type. He believed that the world was a realm, like an endless ocean, and that the earth itself, the land, was some kind of a disk on it. Very similar to various statements attributed to Tesla, but they kind of mythologize him in the same way. Like Tesla's competition with Edison, this one of the 7 sages or whatever also had competition with other philosophers, which is why he's not as well known, also somewhat buried. Anyway, fascinating historical character, and I kind of think that Nikola Tesla is a reboot of this same character. Again, if you look at various images of him, you'll see him holding lightning bolts in his hand. And Tesla is, of course, Mr. Free Energy, or energies everywhere, etc., Mr. Ether, and all this stuff. Okay, let's go on. Elon has ties to the military-industrial complex and NASA via SpaceX. NASA is known for being an occult organization. Look at Jack Parsons and the Collins Elite. I'm not familiar with the Collins Elite, but I'll look into it. Okay, Chapter 2, The Moonchild. Mae Musk, Elon's mother, practitioner of hoodoo and witchcraft. Now, all this makes a lot of sense. When you look at the Age of Mars, the Age of Horus, the New Ageism attached to the space program going back to Jack Parsons, and Musk is part of all of this. When you see Musk wearing the red suit of armor last Halloween, he bought it at a store called Abracadabra with the ram's head on it, which is Aries. These are ritual costumes that correlate to his world stage role as the Pope of Mars. Let's move on. Chapter 3, Elon's shady past. Here's the picture where he was, quote, photobombed by Ghislaine Maxwell. He said he was photobombed, but what the poster here notes is that photobombing didn't exist yet when this picture was taken. Photobombing wasn't a thing. Now, supposedly she said that while they were in the same room, Ghislaine Maxwell said of Musk that they talked about, or she told him, you need to stop the internet. You need to shut down the internet. It's going to destroy us all. There was some kind of attempt by her to get him to somehow stop it all. Chapter 4 is Musk-controlled opposition. He has lulled the masses into a deep sleep while helping to construct a surveillance state. G.I. Gurdjieff said, quote, man is turning into parts of the machine. Man has become a willing slave. Let's take a look here. He was part of the World Economics Forum, YGL. He's an open, adamant transhumanist who wants to merge man with AI. He supports Klaus Schwab's fourth industrial revolution. Yeah, obviously. And one of the interesting things about it is that he's so attractive to the right wing. And the people on the right know climate change is a hoax, but Musk is totally green. He's totally against the fact that crypto is bad for the environment. He actually spoke out against that. Musk is a greenie. He's as green as Greta Thunberg. What does that mean? It means the opposite of free market, the opposite of freedom, the opposite of movement. It means stop breathing. It means World War Zero, cut your carbon footprint in half. They use the space program to sell the capitalists on the environmentalist agenda by dressing it up as the success of capitalism, the free market, unfettered free market innovation will take us to the stars. The communists didn't get us there, the capitalists did, right? Nope, the space program is a stalking horse for the green movement. It's all a hoax. And if they can get you to accept that the ideal is to live on a commune in some desolate place beneath the ground, then they can get you to adopt that as a lifestyle here. Like, are we still going to destroy the earth and suck all the life out of it and go to Mars like a bunch of parasites? No. They want us to live on earth as we will on Mars when we recognize that to be an ideal. This was something that I brought up in 2017 when Bezos was speaking, and this was covered in Wired magazine. He was speaking at some university, some college, and he was talking about how in the future we're going to have to adopt a civilization of stasis, and that freedom and liberty will exist only for those who go to space. Okay, Musk is not the founder of Tesla. Tesla is a hypersigil. Tesla is an anagram for steel. Exactly 78 years after Tesla died, Musk became the richest person on the planet to the day. Interesting. Chapter 6. Now, SpaceX is definitely SpaceX. It really is. The obelisk is the earth god, space is heaven, space is the goddess, and of course, SpaceX refers to the god and the goddess and the conception of the sun each day. And that's all part of the Gnostic Catholic Mass as practiced by the Thelemites, and it's definitely the case. That's why it's like Elon Musk's Starship ignites all 33 engines. Well, yeah, the 33 engines, 33 vertebrae. The igniting all refers to the Kundalini fire snake. The whole space travel is allegory for higher states of consciousness. Chapter 7. SpaceX has helped to push the new Solar Phallic Church of Science, the religion of the Aeon of Horus. Absolutely. That is correct. And I learned about this when I joined the cult of Thelema right after I was in the military, but before I was studying this stuff, and I actually got involved for a little while. And back then, it was explained to me, before I was invited in, that they believed in a succession of aeons, and that the aeon of the goddess is past, and now we're in the aeon of the dying and resurrecting sun god, and that is being replaced now by their child. And the child is Horus, venerated as Mars, but that Horus is going to be the new sun for the new age. And what does that mean? It means deconstruction of the patriarchy, the whole Ken doll thing. It means a complete iconoclastic change of how we view the goddess and the divine feminine, replacing it with the whore of Babylon. But the new god of the age is the androgen child. And it was explained to me that the child represents a new beginning, divorced from tradition and the past. So burn down, build back better, great reset. It's all part of their ideology. And these are the reality benders. They bend the news. Well, yeah, they're planning 1,000 years into the future. They're planning according to the precession of the equinoxes. So this is all absolutely the case. What's the connection between Wernher von Braun, ex-Nazi, father of rocket technology, Jack Parsons, rocket engineer, Thelemite occultist, Lafayette Ronald Hubbard, the founder of the Church of Scientology, Walt Disney, cartoon film producer, Aleister Crowley, the wicked man in the world, the wickedest man in the world, what a title. What is their connection? They all helped create NASA. And there's also more. When you look at Marjorie Cameron being the first to witness a light from the sky, a UFO, because the UFO worship is part of the introduction of this new religion where space is the new heaven, and they've given us an update for the angel. It's called the alien. It's like man perfected, man from the future, when we've transcended race and gender and we're just these grays. Go through your comments here. I'm Note says, Musk is supposed to bust through the firmament tomorrow with his 33-engine rocket. Violet says, are these brain chips real at all? See, the thing is, they don't need brain chips. Like, they don't need when they have a mind reading device called social media. 1984 was this notion of a horrific future where you can never escape being recorded and you don't have any privacy. Well, what they have done through just the culture and how they introduce things to the marketplace and how they ascribe status to various lifestyles and things, it's like, well, your privacy has no value. It's better if you commodify it. Put your entire life online. And with Facebook, people are putting their family photo albums online. So the eradication of privacy has been an ongoing thing where nobody even wants it. They're trying to sell it. But this is a fascinating group of characters here. Again, Disney, von Braun, Hubbard, Scientology. Now, Scientology is another group that I was studying at the same time I was studying Thelema. And believe it or not, I used to get criticized quite a lot by truthers, by Mentonol addicts. They would say, oh, he's a Scientologist. It's like, no, I've studied all these different cults because before I had a bunch of people online to talk to about all this stuff, I had to do it in real life, in the meatverse. So I did a lot of on-the-ground investigation into a lot of different cults and groups. Even the Church Universal Triumphant that I talked about earlier. I attended 2 meetings at their local I Am temple. And their main symbol, interestingly, is a lighthouse, which is another obelisk type symbol. And I witnessed a group in a purple room chanting down the Archangel Michael. And it's really incredible when you watch this because they chant faster and faster, like faster than auctioneers. And they call it the Violet Fire, but it's totally a doomsday cult. And they do believe in this underground group versus the good guys. So it's like they call it the Great White Brotherhood. So when you hear about the white hats behind the scenes fighting the deep state, that also comes from the same cult. But anyway, in my research into Scientology, I realized that this correlates perfectly with Thelema, with all these other occult groups. It's just dressed up like science fiction. And NASA is no different than Scientology. It's basically another science fiction religion, but they have better special effects, and Scientology has better actors. But they're both scammy space religions. Okay, chapter 8. We're still talking about Pope Elon. America's favorite transhumanist and Agenda 2030. 2045, the year man becomes immortal. Okay, here's Musk saying, quote, you could basically store your memories as a backup and restore the memories, and ultimately you could potentially download them into a new body or a robot body. Now, let's say you could do that. If you could do that, you could clone yourself and then boss yourself around and make yourself or your robot self do all the things that you're already trained to do. So I like that idea. But the idea that it would be you is ridiculous unless you can account for the transmigration of souls. Has that been established yet? Can you upload your soul into an iPhone or into a chip? I'm not sure yet. World Economic Forum 666 advisor Yuval Harari says, history began when humans invented gods and will end when humans become gods. Humans are hackable animals. The whole idea that humans have a soul and free will, that's over. Okay, that solves that. We don't have a soul. Klaus Schwab says, what's the fourth industrial revolution? It will lead us to the fusion of our physical, digital, and biological identity. Diana South says, remember when Johnny Circucci fell in love with you, Tim? And the next day hated your Freemason guts? Yeah, exactly. Johnny Circucci fell in love with me. He said, quote, I love you. I got love bombed hardcore by him and his friend after an hour and a half conversation about the flat earth and the feds and the peds behind it. And then he did some digging and he found out that I've done some deep dive investigations into these various groups, and he realized that he entertained someone who is one of them. And he said I was a Mason and a Jesuit, an Illuminati shill, and said he would never talk to me again. He ranted about me for like 2 days straight, just totally in a tizzy. So I just never really followed up on it. Chapter 9, Neuralink, aka beast mode. Elon Musk said, quote, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. His reasoning here is it's inevitable. According to Musk, a battery-powered chip will be implanted in the human skull. Electrodes will be inserted into the brain. He said it can interface with anywhere in your brain. It could be something that cures eyesight. It could fix anything that's wrong with the brain. I don't see anything wrong with that necessarily. Chapter 10, Man of Sin. Chapter 11, DARPA. Okay, here we go. Elon Musk's Neuralink gets FDA approval for study of human implants. Okay, brain implants in humans. And again, he's a big Department of Defense contractor. But look, here's something else to consider. If space is fake, then what's the likelihood that this is real? Like they're going to fake stuff in inner space. There's a not a coincidence here that Elon Musk is the leading contributor to space junk and the leading contributor to mind junk. If you look at X, it's all by design. I mean, this is, I think, part of the meta story here. But I'm not believing this at all, obviously. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. This is a long thread. It gets really good. Chapter 16, Grimes, Elon's harem of witches. Chapter 17, Musk portrayed as a messiah. In all of his, this is interesting here. Again, the suit of armor. So if you look at the suit of armor, he's got the upside down cross. It's called the Devil's Champion. He bought it at a store called Abracadabra, which is a very relevant word because the whole New Age movement, Aleister Crowley, they used that word. They said it's the word of the new aeon, the aeon where man becomes God. The word means I create as I speak. But he bought this suit of armor there. Now, if you look too, this red suit of armor, he looks exactly like the tarot card of the Emperor, which is number 4. Mars, 4th planet from the sun. Mars, red. The Emperor card is red, red suit of armor. The Emperor, if you look at the tarot card, has a shield with a ram's head, another Aries reference. So he's the Emperor. That's why I call him the Martian Pope. And this is him dressed up in, full regalia. Okay, let's see what else. He says here, Musk is portrayed like a messiah, but literally all of his companies are involved with building a surveillance state that serve the interests of the one world order. Yeah, let's get back to Disney for a moment here. Okay, look at Disneyland. It's a closed system. You can't bring Bugs Bunny in there. Everything's got to conform to the Disney universe. Now just flip a switch and make it Mars. How hard is that? You could have a Mars base. Just put it underground. Everybody in the Mars base will be controlled. And then we talked about that television hoax called Space Cadets, where you had 10 people convinced they were in low Earth orbit because 5 of them were actors. And they kept the non-actors from conspiracy theorizing about how it's all fake. Well, if you had a captive audience transported to a fake Mars base and it's populated with actors, there's no way people are going to see through it. Like I'm saying, the Truman Show is a model for the future in a microcosm. Okay, move on. Violet says, I think it's fake. Yeah, I'm suggesting it's fake. Fake until proven real. And is it fakeable? Obviously. Chapter 18, the fascination of Musk is cognitive dissonance. Wait. Scientific American said cognitive dissonance is healthy and it's good for you. Overall synopsis. Supports climate change? Check. Supports a carbon tax? Check. Supports the V? Check. Transhumanist? Check. Eugenicist? Technocrat? NWO agent? Check. Absolutely. And one more. He's got his New World Order Met Gala jacket. Nothing to see here. And remember, we used to make fun of it, but Grimes put out that video where she talked about how AI would perfect communism and get rid of systemic corruption, and nobody would have to work. You could just sit around making NFTs all day because forced labor is not a vibe. Where do you think she got all that from? And this all ties in to HAL 9000, to the AI, to Gaia, to Pandora. All this preparation for a one world monolithic governance under some kind of a quote AI god. And look, we already have a god construct. It's Gaia. You have your devil. For the atheists, they believe in a devil and sin. It's called COVID. So you have your God, you have your devil. They have these replacements, and it just seems like right now this AI thing would fulfill the role of a god. And they're just about there. Like you saw that video where all those world leaders were worshiping that digital obelisk at NATO. So they're bringing in the digital god. And just recently, they did some sort of a AI rendering based on the Shroud of Turin to show what Jesus would look like. So they're already kind of fusing all this. And if you look back at George Lucas's first film, which happened to come out on a 311, a THX 1138, they made use of a digital Jesus that people could confess to. Okay, this has been great. Thanks for all the calls. I'll make sure I put a link to Jake the A-Hole's video that showed the 9/11ing of those two football players. I mean, what a scam that all is. Again, I open up with a quote by JFK, who might be Jesus Christ in a Trump suit. We subject all facts to a prefabricated set of interpretations. We enjoy the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought. We don't. We get the discomfort of thought, but it's totally worth it. And for me, I'm not even put off by the fact that most people are brainwashed. I don't bother waking the dreamers. If you want to believe what you see on the screen, if you want to accept CSA, if you want to be a believer and reality fluid, I'm not going to judge. But those of us who know better are actually forming a breakaway civilization. Look, we are the only objectivists in the world today. Skill says, hell has open borders, heaven has strict border control. Interesting comment. All right, I'm putting a link below really quick for those of you who are subscribed to the newsletter. You just get the daily newsletter and you get all the archives. I send it as an MP3, and I also send a link to the replay. So if you miss anything and if you want to chat with people during live replays, so make sure you sign up for the newsletter below. I have a video here. I hadn't been able to find it before, of the climate change protesters getting shot on the road out there in Panama. So I do have the actual video. It's kind of far away and the cameraman's like right there. But you do see it. So I don't know about global warming, but this video does kind of warm my heart. Anyway, this is Pope Elon, One-Eyed Jack in the Shells.
It's like, we're all going to die someday. And if you're going to pick some place to die, then why not Mars? Okay. If we're born on Earth, why not die on Mars? Seems like maybe it'd be quite exciting. But so I think, given the choice of dying on Earth or dying on Mars, I'd say, yeah, sure, I'll die on Mars.
Father, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Give us each our daily bread, and forgive us our sins. For we ourselves forgive everyone who is indebted to us. And lead us not into temptation.
And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake.